Warm mug met claw clicks. Carla did not move. She stood perfectly still, watching the falcon settle into its place, just inches away. The bird did not hunt. It did not scan the horizon for prey. Instead, it turned its head, fixing its sharp amber eyes directly onto hers. The silence between them was heavy, broken only by the distant hum of the city waking up below. Carla held her breath, feeling the weight of that unblinking stare. The falcon shifted its weight, its feathers ruffling slightly in the morning breeze, but its focus never wavered. It was a deliberate, calculated presence. Every morning for the past week, this exact moment had repeated itself. The bird arrived, the talons struck the railing, and the silent standoff began. Carla watched the way the light caught the amber of its eyes, searching for some sign of intent or hunger, but found only a strange, quiet intelligence. The bird remained motionless, a sentinel anchored to the balcony. It was waiting for something, and Carla realized she was being observed in return. The standoff ended as abruptly as it had begun. With a sudden, sharp snap of its wings, the falcon launched itself into the air. It did not circle the balcony as it usually did. Instead, it banked hard to the left, carving a tight arc through the morning light. Carla leaned over the railing, her coffee forgotten, watching the bird gain speed. It flew low, skimming just above the rooftops, its flight path deliberate and straight. It was heading toward the dense cluster of houses at the end of the street. Carla dropped her mug into the sink with a clatter and lunged for the binoculars. She pressed the cold glass to her eyes, adjusting the focus with trembling fingers. The falcon disappeared behind the jagged, uneven roofline of the neighbor's house. She held her breath, waiting for it to reappear. Seconds stretched into a long, agonizing pause. Then, the bird surged back into view, circling the same spot on the roof, diving low, then pulling up sharply. It repeated the maneuver, a frantic, repetitive pattern that signaled a clear, urgent distress. Carla lowered the binoculars, her pulse quickening. The bird was not hunting. It was calling for help, and the destination was now locked in her sight. Carla did not go back inside. The urgency of the bird's flight pattern burned in her mind, overriding the hesitation that usually kept her grounded. She moved to the attic access, pushed the heavy hatch aside, and pulled herself up into the narrow, stifling crawl space. Dust motes danced in the slivers of light, piercing the rafters. She scrambled toward the small window, shoved it open, and stepped out onto the shingles. The morning sun had already turned the roof into a baking surface. Heat radiated through the soles of her boots, intense and unforgiving. She crouched low, her palms pressing against the rough, grit-covered shingles to maintain her balance. The slope was steeper than it looked from the ground, forcing her to shift her weight with every inch of progress. She crawled forward, muscles in her thighs tightening as she navigated the pitch of the roof. Below, the street was a distant, silent blur. Above, the sky was wide and indifferent. She reached the gutter, the metal groaning under her hand, and braced herself against the chimney stack. Every movement was a calculated risk against the height. She stopped and peered over the edge of the adjacent roofline. The view over the edge revealed a narrow, neglected channel between the rusted gutter and the base of the chimney. Tucked into the corner, shielded from the wind but exposed to the sun, lay a small, motionless mass. Carla squinted, her heart sinking as the gray down came into focus. It was a fledgling barely larger than her fist. Its left wing was bent at a jagged, unnatural angle, twisted away from its body as if caught in a trap. The bird did not move as she watched. It was completely silent, its eyes half closed, reflecting nothing of the world around it. She leaned closer, her own body braced against the chimney, and saw the rhythmic, desperate rise and fall of its chest. Each breath was a struggle, a shallow, fluttering motion that seemed to exhaust the creature's remaining strength. She knew that if she did not reach down into that narrow gap, the bird would not survive the hour. She shifted her weight, preparing to bridge the distance. A sudden rush of air signaled the arrival. The mother falcon dropped from the sky, landing with a heavy thud on the chimney stack just feet from Carla. She did not attack. Instead, she flared her wings wide, creating an imposing silhouette against the bright sky. Her amber eyes locked onto Carla, unblinking and piercing. The bird remained perfectly still, a silent sentinel guarding the injured fledgling. Carla froze. her hand hovering just inches from the gutter. The intensity of the bird's gaze was a physical weight, pinning her to the roof. Every muscle in the falcon's body was coiled, ready to strike. Yet she held her position. She was waiting. The message was clear. This was not a time for hesitation or clumsy movements. The mother falcon shifted her weight, her talons scraping against the masonry, and let out a low, vibrating sound that resonated in the quiet air. Carla felt the pressure of the moment. The bird was not just watching. She was assessing, demanding a level of precision that Carla had never before needed to muster. The air between them felt thick, charged with a primal, unspoken agreement. Carla took a slow, steadying breath, forcing her heart rate to drop. She adjusted her position, keeping her movements slow and deliberate, acknowledging the mother's authority. Carla pulled the thick gardening gloves over her hands. The leather felt stiff and clumsy, a stark contrast to the delicate task ahead. She braced her boots against a ridge in the shingles, her muscles straining to maintain balance on the steep incline. The mother falcon remained a statue on the chimney, her amber eyes tracking every twitch of Carla's fingers. Carla reached down, her breath hitching as the roof surface shifted slightly beneath her weight. She slid an inch, her heart hammering against her ribs, but she caught herself on the chimney base. She did not look away from the fledgling. She lowered her cupped hands into the narrow gap, the space tight and suffocating. The fledgling was freezing to the touch, its downy feathers damp against her palms. She moved with agonizing slowness, sliding her fingers beneath the bird's fragile frame. The bird let out a faint, thin chirp, its head lolling against her thumb. Carla lifted it clear of the gutter. She held the fledgling against her chest, shielding it from the wind. The mother falcon took flight, circling once in a wide, silent arc above them before banking toward a nearby tree. Carla turned, her movements careful and deliberate. The spare room transformed into a sanctuary of quiet recovery. Carla cleared a space, lining a sturdy box with soft layered towels to cradle the fledgling. Every morning began with the precise, delicate task of administering nutrients. She held the dropper steady, watching the liquid bead at the tip before pressing it gently against the bird's beak. The fledgling was a ball of gray down, its movements initially sluggish and weak, but the consistency of the care began to take hold. Carla tracked the progress in small, measurable shifts. A stronger grip on the towel, a clearer focus in the bird's eyes, the way it began to preen its own feathers. As the sun dipped below the horizon each evening, the routine shifted. Carla moved the box to the open window, leaving the latch undone. Without fail, the mother falcon arrived at dusk. She landed on the balcony railing, her talons clicking against the metal, and peered through the glass. She did not attempt to enter. She simply watched, a silent observer of the healing process. Carla sat on the floor nearby, motionless, allowing the mother to see the fledgling growing stronger. For 18 nights, this silent communication bridged the gap between the room and the sky. The clinic had served its purpose, and the time for confinement was nearing its end. The 18th morning brought a shift in the room's atmosphere. The fledgling no longer huddled in the corner of the box. It hopped onto the edge of the windowsill, its talons gripping the wood with newfound force. Carla stood back, her hands pressed against her sides to remain perfectly still. The bird stretched its wings, the primary feathers fanning out in a wide, rhythmic arc. The left wing, once broken and useless, held steady against the morning breeze. It flexed, testing the resistance of the air, the muscles beneath the gray down rippling with life. Carla reached for the latch. The metal clicked, a sharp sound that echoed in the quiet room. She pushed the window wide, opening the path to the sky. The fledgling turned its head, amber eyes scanning the horizon, then back to the open space before it. It hopped onto the very edge of the ledge, its body leaning forward into the void. For a heartbeat, it hesitated. The wind ruffled its feathers, pulling at the down. Then, with a sudden sharp snap of its wings, the fledgling launched itself. It did not fall. It caught the updraft, its body leveling out instantly. It rose, gaining altitude with every powerful stroke, a burst of energy that carried it upward. The fledgling climbed higher, its wings cutting through the thin air with rhythmic precision. It was no longer a patient in a box, but a creature of the wind. Above the tree line, a shadow descended from the clouds. The mother falcon banked, her wings wide and steady. intercepting the young bird in the open expanse. They circled each other once, a brief, silent recognition in the vast blue. Then, they aligned. Side by side, they turned toward the west, where the sun had begun to bleed into the horizon. The light caught their feathers, turning them into dark, sharp silhouettes against a canvas of gold and violet. They flew with effortless synchronicity, rising and dipping as one, moving further away from the city and toward the wild, jagged ridges of the distant hills. Carla remained by the window, her hands resting on the sill. She watched until they were nothing more than two tiny specks, then one, then nothing at all. The sky held no trace of them. The wind shifted, cooling the air against her skin. And the silence of the house felt different now. It was not the silence of waiting, but of completion. She pulled the window shut, the latch clicking into place for the last time. The room was empty, yet the weight of the past 18 days had lifted. She turned away, the golden light of the setting sun casting long, soft shadows across the floor. The mission was finished. The sky had reclaimed its own, and in the quiet of the evening she found a profound, steady peace.